The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
Hello everybody, welcome to the 9 Years podcast. Nick Draper here with Stuart Deacons, as always, here for another hour of AFC Wimbledon chat. And I don't know how I'm coming across right now, but if I'm sounding quite upbeat and positive, I don't know how. This is going to be a hard podcast. It's one of those weeks where you kind of think, oh man, this is going to be a struggle to get through. Of course, we'll be looking back at the defeat at Acton on the weekend. Neil Copter's pairs will return as always. And we'll look ahead to a couple of home games ahead of us in the days ahead. But I hate it when I do that. I hate it when I'm sort of talking along and then it sounds pretty good and then I mess it up by repeating words or something and it all falls apart. It's fallen apart, Stu. The show has fallen apart already and we're less than a minute in. Oh, wow. It was going so well. Which is actually kind of a nice analogy or metaphor perhaps for our season, because our season was going quite well, wasn't it, at the start? Everyone was everyone was really positive, new players, everyone's thinking we've got a bit more attacking intent, it's all looking good, and now all of a sudden it seems like we're back where we were before. 2 defeats in a row, another 2 goals conceded. I don't really know where to start. Here's my contention, right? Here's my argument then for this week. This is where we'll start. This is my debating point. So, why are people unhappy? Because there's been lots and lots and lots on social media over the past week, past few days, probably past 2 weeks, let's say. The people that want to see the back of Neil Ardley have not waited at all to pounce on their opportunity to stick the knife in or twist the knife a little bit into him with these recent results. I'm really struggling with it at the moment, if I'm being honest. I am struggling with where we're at as supporters in terms of where we view our side and where we view our expectations and what do we actually want from this team. Last season, it wasn't very good. And this season we started, like we said, quite positively, but people were saying, well, it's better because it's more entertaining and we look like we've got more attacking intent. And that's all we ask. That's what it was said. That's all we ask. A bit more having a go, feeling like we're looking to win games. Results, sometimes you can lose, it doesn't matter, as long as the intent is there. Well, that's been proven to be rubbish as far as I'm concerned over the last 2 weeks because we've lost both games and all of a sudden nothing else matters except for results. So what is it? Is it performances or results? What do people want? I don't know.
Joe, it's quite interesting you talk about it this way because all I've listened to this week is obviously I'm not a political expert or even enjoy politics. I enjoy listening to it on the outside, but
no, never a true word has been spoken.
Yeah, but all I hear this week is, well, let's get the people back to vote and let's do the Brexit and give an option to remain. And when you were talking about, all we asked last year was to have a better, have more attacking football. That's all we asked. Well, was that what we asked for? Because if we did a referendum, would that have been the tick box everyone has said, or would we be in the mess we still are in now? So interesting you talk about that way. I think this season is just very much gone how I thought. If we had a bad start or any time we got into a sticky patch, the Neil Ardley out camp people were never silenced. They never went away. They just basically recharged their batteries over the summer, very much like Neil Ardley did, and they, in a way, Neil Ardley being able to spend about 100k on transfer fees coming in was always going to strengthen their argument. They knew very well that if we didn't start very well and we went into this bit of a rut we are in now, their voice would get louder, and that's just basically where we are now. I also think we have. I said this a little while ago that we're going to move back to Plough Lane, but we go back to Plough Lane with total different fan base than we did when we left Plough Lane. When we left Plough Lane, we were very much fans who were the underdog, and used to staying up on the last day or that sort of thing, But now we've got new fans, I feel, that are used to see us got a new brand of fans. And actually, the new fan nowadays doesn't really understand how a manager is doing their job after 6.5 years. So it doesn't surprise me. We've seen managers get sacked after 4 games, I believe, at Bradford, wasn't it? who come down to our place. Thankfully, we've got Oxford who've been very kind to us and kept him in a job so we can berate him on Saturday. But I just think fans, they just go, the new bunch of fans going 6.5 years, must be time for a change. It's probably time for a change after 6 months. But now, definitely after 6.5 years, he's doing a bad job. Let's get him out.
It's the underdog thing. You bang on the money. How do people not see, though, when still not the same underdogs that we've always been? I don't comprehend this. I know you said we spent money. We have spent money, and yes, hey, look, we'll have to speak about that more a bit later on, I think, because it's an absolutely valid point. It is a valid point because we've invested a substantial amount of money in signings this season, but it still doesn't change the fact that we are low on budget, lowest stadium capacity, all these bits and pieces. We shouldn't be expecting anything other really than just to maintain our place in League One, surely. And if you think on the evidence of what you've seen so far, which I, as I've said before, I think we've got a team that's not very good, but I don't think you can look at it and say the performances perhaps are those of a side that are destined to go down at the end of the season. There are question marks, absolutely, but I think it's far too early to start panicking and thinking, oh, this is the end of the world, we're doomed, we're going to go down. And to be honest with you, even if we were to go down to League Two, I mean, should we even be at League One in the first place?
Well, we're League One, we're on merit, aren't we? Because we had an excellent end to a season, we went through the playoffs, and let's be honest with you, Shrewsbury got to the playoffs last year and bottled it at the end of the season. So I know some people say that, sometimes you get lucky in the playoffs. I don't think there's any luck involved. I think we were just very good at that time, and we hit form at the right time, and we had the best super sub in the league in terms of Mr. Barak and Fenwa. I think we deserve to be in League One. I don't think you're alluding to that, but I've heard on social media, well, if we move down to League Two, do you know what? It doesn't mean that much. I really think it does. I don't think you give up your League One place just because you're going, well, budget wise, we're not in the top. I don't know, we're not in the top 12. We're not. We can safely say that. I think you hold on. I think we worked really hard to get into League One, and I think going to Plough Lane as a League One club would be an awful lot better in terms of we've got to look at the clubs that have come down to our place already. Sunderland come down to our place, sold the place out. We've got Oxford coming on Saturday. We've got Pompey coming very soon. They will bring lots of fans. So I think to move into Plough Lane with a League One squad or League One status is massive in my opinion. But it's the underdog thing, isn't it? I chat to a few fans who've only been here since the conference, very young. If you've only been here since the conference, all you really are used to is seeing a successful team or really only one team that struggled on the last day of the season. But in the press, we're sometimes victims of our own publicity in terms of all the publicity we have as we're the underdogs, but we're AFC Wimbledon. We fight against budgets. We don't cave in. We don't give in. We don't die. And sometimes fans just don't settle for mediocrity of a season like we're going to have.
I love the way you had that. The season we're going to have, as if that's what we're still definitely mediocrity. I mean, do you not think that we go into the season thinking, look, okay, when we were in the Premier League, right? Did you ever go into a season, even when we got to 2 semi-finals and finished whatever it was in the league, or when we finished sixth, in the second ever Premier League in inverted commas season, we finished sixth? Did you ever go into a season and have any expectations for anything, or did we go into a season thinking, I'm nervous about this season, I don't want to go down? That's how I went into every season. I thought, I'm nervous, I'm dreading being relegated. Yeah,
in the Premiership days, though, I got very blasé until we got the Norwegian come in, Mr. Olsen with his welly boots, Wellingtons. Welly boots, they're not called that, are they? Wellingtons. You know what I mean?
Wellington boots. I mean, you could shorten it to welly boots if you want, but it's not something I've ever heard before and probably will never again.
I was very lucky. Ever since I've been Sport Wimbledon, I've managed with Ray Harford, Bobby Gould, Don Howe was coach, Joe Kinnear. Very, very lucky to have managers that you trusted. Joe Kinnear never really had us in any trouble. We sold our best players every summer. We got decent transfer values in. We reinvested. We brought the youth through. It's just such a different model. You never seen in the Premiership days us doing what Neil Hardy did in the summer of really bringing 10, 11 players out and bringing another 10, 11 in. If we did do that, it would have been through from the youth setup, which we trusted and was, along with that and Palace at that time, was the best youth academies in the south. To be fair, I think it's just. I think at the moment it's. I know you were saying about what does a relegation team look like, or do we look like a relegation team, and are we thinking too quickly? I don't think last year we probably looked at teams that went down and thought they were relegation fodder. If I'm being truthful, but what you don't, I think what people worry very much this time is that we are looking decent sometimes, but then we can see goals that are either naive or tactically naive or just bad luck. But eventually, you can just see the confidence draining out of players. And to me, at the moment, it's starting to paint a very similar picture of previous seasons. Now, I'm an RDM person, purely, and you could argue that some of mine is sentiment. I'm very much a believer that I like the model now of having a manager that's been here a little while. I hate when I see a manager sacked after three or four bad performances, and I'm actually quite proud when I speak to I speak to my mates at work and they go, "How long has your manager been there now?" And I'm like, "He's there 6.5 years," and they're almost shocked because that just doesn't happen. And I like the loyalty side of it, but I can see why Nuardi out people are shouting at the moment, and they are starting to shout, and they're starting to get people to listen to them.
Nice conversations do tend to go off in many directions. I should just clarify before I go any further that when I talk about relegation to League Two, perhaps not being the worst thing in the world, I am playing a bit of devil's advocate there. No one ever wants to get relegated. I think backward steps, you never want to be taking backward steps, basically. And I think we've seen, actually, with the likes of Chesterfield at the moment, who have gone up into League One, come down and gone down again. You're seeing, who was I thinking of at the moment? Northampton. What's going on there? They're just bounced. It happens to teams, okay?
Well, look at Hartlepool and look at Torquay United.
Leyton Orient, yeah, of course.
Torquay United, big side in League Two. Do you remember when we got back into League Two? That was like, wow, we're going to Torquay. They are now gracing the Isthmian League South.
No, hold on, Stu. No. They're not that low down.
They are.
No,
they're outside the Conference South, aren't they?
There we go.
I do apologise. Hey, look, we're above that league level now. I just forgot the levels.
Amazing.
But
yes, I did to clear that one up. But you're right, in terms of managers and people wanting, because 6.5 years and what have you, and things like that. I just think objectively, and if you look at it, I compared it on Twitter in the week to Neil Harris at Millwall. I was thinking, if Millwall were to sack Neil Harris now, what reaction do you think they'd get from everyone in football?
You get it, yeah. For what he's done, you probably would get that's really sort of like not really what he's done well. But managers are realistic enough to know that they're only as good as their last couple of games. They realistically know that. They know that excellent season they have will get forgot, the next season if they start poorly. It's just the way of the world at the moment. Everyone wants instant success. I've been watching recently a new, what's the Big Brother thing, is it? A Circle. Again, social media. These people want quick 100 success. You've got the X Factor coming in at the moment. And what's that? They're wannabes who don't want to work the hard way and do that. They want success instantly, don't they? Instant fame. And I think fans nowadays are very similar. They want everything instantly. And if it doesn't happen, well, get him out and get the next one in.
But how? How has this become something in football? I don't understand, really. Surely it takes a club like ourselves to stand up and say, no, we're not just going to follow the trend and be like sheep. We're going to stand by our principles and do what we think is right, which we have been doing. And even if we do happen to get relegated, for example, we're not going to let go of our manager. But to be honest with you, even if we finish fifth bottom, that's still fine for us.
It is. And you're right. You could say now, and I've heard the argument said to me many times before, if he said to you now, you'll finish fifth from bottom, and you're safe, would you take it? Yeah, I probably would do. But do I really want to see out the whole season with the chance that we might not do it? I don't know. It's like saying in hindsight, yeah, you'll finish fifth, don't worry about it. Enjoy the football, go and enjoy the game. Don't worry about not being nervous. You're going to finish fifth from bottom, you'll stay up, job's done. But we all know, do you know what I mean, that if that might, at the moment, we are just above the relegation zone. We keep losing games. We keep conceding really, really poor goals. And if I was watching a highlight package of our goals that we conceded, without seeing the goals that we've scored, I'd be going, that team don't look very good defensively. You could pinpoint mistake after mistake after mistake. And you'd think that team must be in the bottom four, because the way we defend and the confidence we look to have none of, that's what it's looking like at the moment. So I think it's just, like I say, I think people are now just starting to think we're getting into that rut again where we're going to lose a lot of games, we're not scoring goals. We go into what you could say the biggest 10 days, I think, I'm just trying to think, 10 days of the season, where we play Oxford, Bradford and Plymouth back-to-back. Neil Ardley must look at them set of fixtures and think, wow, how did I get them set of fixtures at this stage of the season?
When did this shift happen in football where we're talking about, like you're saying there, biggest 10 days of the season, and we're in late September, moving into early October? Like, this bizarre, isn't it? Like, we're 10 games into the season, so less than a quarter into the season already. There's such and at this level, seasons take forever. They're marathons, not sprints, of course.
Yeah, I agree,
and that's why judgment's so early.
Yeah, and I agree. But I think what I would say to you, I don't think the judgment's based on these 10 games. I think it's very much an overhaul of what happened last year. And yes, you could then say, well, we finished the last 8 games quite well.
We stayed up last year.
Yeah, but I think when people look at the whole, if they remember a year in football or the last 2 years watching Wimbledon, I think their mindset is very much of a team that's not performing, underperforming, not scoring goals, not understanding the shape they play, changing tactics, changing players, not knowing the first 11. Do you know what I mean? I think, and that's where the fans that have probably lost confidence in Neil Ardley, you're not going to change that. You're not going to change that. And the only thing that I get concerned about at the moment is that the Neil Ardley out people are starting to find their voices, and I start to think they're starting to influence maybe the ones that are sitting on the fence. And once that starts turning, then that could be trouble at home. We've got big 2 games. I said 3 games in 10 days. But if we get nothing out of Oxford and Bradford, then I think the pressure becomes quite a lot on Neil Ardley already. Bearing in mind, we're starting to see some signs from Neil Ardley already that are distressing, in my opinion. And that concerns me, because the moment Neil Ardley starts, in my opinion, the time I lose confidence in Neil Ardley is a time he loses confidence in himself. And I'm starting to see some signs that I don't really like, and really would love the board to get hold of him and not shake him up, but get some support in there. Dave Bassett was there against the last home game. Get him in, give him some pep talks, because at the moment he's starting to show some signs that I'm not liking.
One question that I don't think I'm ever going to make my mind up about, to be honest with you. I think my opinion changes regularly. Is the old question when people say, okay, you're of the opinion, whoever it might be, supporter X is of the opinion that Neil Ardley needs to go. He needs to leave his position as manager of AFC Wimbledon. A lot of the time, the first question back will be, okay, well, who should be manager then? And then that person replies with, well, that's not my job. But surely if you are thinking that Neil Ardley needs to leave, what you are saying is that there's somebody out there that could do a better job. And I couldn't put my hand on heart and say I could tell you, guaranteed, 100%, there is somebody out there who could do a better job than Neil Ardley.
Difficult argument, isn't it? Because, you could say there's loads of Premiership managers that are out of a job. They won't come down to League Two. So they probably are better coaches, but they're also better coaches that wouldn't even dream of coming anywhere near Wimbledon for a friendly, let alone coming to look for a job. I'm one of those things, I do get a bit fed up with the argument of, well, who are you going to bring in? Because what you just said is what I think I've said to you a couple of times, is it isn't really my job to really find out who can come in better. I think when you sack a manager, unless you're a Premiership club now, that I think now already, if a lot of Premiership clubs now sack a manager with already a new manager basically installed, everyone now talks to an agent and goes, would that person be interested if we sacked our manager? And I think everyone does that now. I don't think that happens so much in League Two. But I think the only time you get rid of your manager is if you believe that he is no longer the best person for the job in terms of it's run its course. And I think, my personal opinion is I think Neil Ardley will be the first one to say that. I don't think our board will ever sack him. I think Neil Ardley will be the person that would jump. I don't think he will need to be told. And that time is not there yet. I think it's a way off, if I'm being truthful. But in terms of who would come in, well, as soon as a job gets advertised, then you know who applies for it. And there's a few names that I would jump at a chance of approaching. I'm not going to say names because I feel it. I do find it a little bit disrespectful when someone's in a job to say who you think would do a better job than them. If I'm being honest with you, but there are people out there that I think would apply, and we would probably be surprised at the caliber of names that would apply for the women's job.
I'm just of the opinion that if I'm on the football club board, if I'm in Eric's shoes or Joe Palmer's shoes or whatever, I do wonder if I would have to, like I say, hand on heart, be able to say, I think there's somebody else that can do a better job than Neil Ardley's doing with his current team before I even think about or contemplate letting him go. Like I say, like you say, you don't think that would ever happen anyway with the board. I don't see them doing that, and I'd make them right in not doing that. I think if you're of the honest opinion that nobody or there isn't anyone that could do a better job with our squad, then why would you get rid of the manager in charge? Now, there's two sides to that. One is, could nobody do a better job because this team are really, really poor? And I don't say they're really, really poor. As I said many times now, I think this is not a great squad at all. But, I mean, when Neil first came in, he took over possibly the worst Football League squad ever assembled in the history of the Football League. And do you know what? It took him until after January, didn't he, to really turn us round. We had some disaster shows under him to begin with because he just didn't have the personnel. And the inconvenient truth of all that is that the FA Cup tie at Milton Keynes was the game that saved us that season. For the finances it brought us that we could then reinvest in a team to keep us up. A bit of uncomfortable one, that, but it's true. The flip side to that is this is the squad that he's put together. Yeah,
and the thing is, he knows it. He spent quite a bit of money, and he's not hid away from that because he's basically said he has spent a bit of money. And I think, that means that it's his squad. When you keep looking at if the team is doing exactly the same thing season in, season out, and we've gone through defensive mistakes, formation changes all the time, not knowing the first 11, not scoring enough goals, conceding too many. If that happens season after season, and you keep changing your squad, eventually you have to go and what is the consistent thing in every season about the club? And you can't argue. You have to point out the manager's door. But I think when we talk about what can a manager do? There's loads of things that a manager could do differently. So you'll get and if you remember, Joe Kinnear was called the best quarter-free manager ever by Robbie Earle. And basically what that means is that Joe Kinnear scared the living daylights out of people. And you were allowed to do that in those days. And when you have Vinnie Jones as your captain, God, how did you survive in that change room at Selhurst Park if you had a bad game? But he was the best He wasn't the best coach because Terry Burton did all the coaching on the training field. So that when you people said, Joe Kinnear is a great manager, how would you define a manager? Terry Burton was the best coach. But then when he stepped up into the Premiership, it's probably unfair to judge him on a 3 or 4 games when he jumped into the Bradford game at the end of the season. But he probably was never a manager. He was never the helm. He was never the face of it. But I sometimes think, when you bring managers in, if we were going to bring a new manager in, I would personally go for a coach rather than a manager. I would try and look at the coaching setup more than just the manager being in control of everything. That would be my way I'd go.
Well, it's interesting you say that Joe Kinnear was the typical 2-3 manager. Neil Ardley, after Accrington on Saturday, which we haven't even really spoken about yet, he said he needs to stop doing team talks before the game. So why are our first half so bad? For a start, they have been horrendous for the past 2 weeks. They were horrendous at Burton as well. I mean, it's 5 defeats in the last 6, mainly because of first half performances. And he's sort of saying that there's not much more he can do. Is that what you're sort of picking out when you talk about coaching and stuff?
Yeah, because I think if you look at a manager, what can they do? Well, they can set up the team. They can select a team, so they can recruit, which he's done at the beginning of the season. They then can coach. They then can tactically, what's their tactics? What's their formation? They can do the coaching. They can do the man management side of it. So the man management is getting the best out of your players. So players that are not doing too well, put a shoulder, put an arm around them, or give someone a kick up the backside, i.e. the old Lyle Towers of this world. But then also you set them up ready to go, don't you? So when we say about what can a manager do differently, there's so many different areas where a manager can influence a result on match day. And it just worries me when he says, I'm just not going to do I don't know why I bother doing team talk. And I would say, in all fairness to Neil Ardley, he's asked that question because I'd imagine our media team have probably gone to him within 10 or 15 minutes of finishing the game, because I probably would know that I would imagine they got up by train, or if not by train, by coach. They want to be back on the coach as quick as possible. So that interview has probably done no more than 10 or 15 minutes, and he's just watched a first half performance that was not what he expected to go on top of Scunthorpe at home the previous week. So I think sometime when you come out straight away and say things, you might say things that in hindsight you wouldn't say. But to say that, I might as well just stop doing team talks, obviously something's gone. Obviously something in the last 2 weeks, and it's probably not it's probably not even the Scunthorpe game and the Accrington game. You could say it was at Burton as well. For some reason, we've come out cold, not switched on, not at the right tempo. And you have to wonder, why is that happening? Is he got to do what he does at half-time before the game? I imagine at half-time he's going in and asking some very awkward questions, but he's probably now doubting himself of how is he setting a team up, because he's seen his team 2 weeks on the trot come out and have real shocking first halves.
You talk about setting the tempo, though. When you look at our squad, which players do you look at as the ones to set the tempo? Because I would argue a lot of it will come from central midfield. I don't think central midfielders are really that type of players. You can argue about your front two. Well, all right, Kwesi was injured, of course he was, last week. But James Hansen's not really that sort to be really closing down and pressing high and what have you. Who generates that tempo? Where does it come from in our team? And is that not sort of filling or falling into my point of we just don't have the personnel?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think sometimes it's not so much the tempo, but it's like territory in a way, isn't it? If we look at both games, and like I say, I wasn't at Accrington, but I've seen enough of the highlights, the extended highlights, to get a picture of what was going on. In terms of the Scunthorpe game, if you want to get tempo and get territory, your wingers have got to push their fullbacks back, and your fullbacks have got to push on, and in the end make their wingers become fullbacks. So then in that way you then can push up, you can win territory, you can overload and all those sort of things. But all I noticed against the game at Accrington was that Pinnock and Bartram were basically just all the time chasing back. They were doing all their work, really doubling up as fullbacks, because there was no territory. So when that happens, in the end, you get chances against you and things like that. So I think your tempo comes really from maybe your fullbacks and your wide players. Your midfielders, you would never say that Tom Sawers and Liam Trotter are quick players. You're never going to say that. But what they should be doing is, for them to set the tempo, they need to get enough of the ball. And if they're not getting enough of the ball, you won't get your wingers involved, and then you won't push up your territory. So maybe it's got, and this is why I don't know whether the two in midfield works. That's why I've said a couple of times, do we need an extra body in there? Because we don't seem to be holding on to the ball enough. And if we knew Accrington were going to start so well, we didn't really look like Billy Key, we know what Billy Key's going to do, and it's just like the first goal is just it's just a car crash for a goal, because in the end, and I was having a bit of a laugh with Mark Hendricks, who was on Love Sport on Sunday, but I did disagree with him where I saw the fault of the goal come from, because it's very easy to pick that Liam Trotter and Tom Sawers were played in between the lines, but Joe Piggott's weak as anything in terms of on the touchline. It's got to do more there. And then when the ball's played in, Deji follows the same run that Ron McDonald follows. One player takes a run, takes two defenders out. Deji realises quicker than most, but then comes out and doesn't get the blocking quick enough. But if I'm looking at the fault of it, I'm looking at the centre half thinking, you've let someone come off you and get a free shot. And we all know what Billy Key's going to do. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Neil Ardley at the moment, the problem you've got is, what more does he say now? Because he's really hung his team out to dry 2 weeks on the trot. And that concerns me when a manager's showing some distress signals early on.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that immediately after the defeat to Accrington, wondering what he was going to say after the game, because he say, having laid into them for the first half performance against Scunthorpe, it's deja vu. The very next game it's not a good look. I kind of have to side, though, on your other point about the first goal. Side with Mark a little bit here, to be honest, because Billy Key is in absolute acres of space in that position, right dead in front of goal, all the time in the world to pick his spot and what have you. Surely one of your two centre midfield, like, what is Tom Sawers doing at that point? When that ball gets played into Key, what's Tom Sawers doing? Who's he meant to be marking? What position is he meant to be taking up? He seems to be just, if he's the more defensive of the two, or the more defensive-minded of the two, there's a huge gap.
There is, but the gap only happens because Billy Key comes off the edge of the area and then drops into the space. So, and this is what I'm trying to say, for Tom Sawers to be at fault there, Tom Sawers would have to have been where Deji was. So he'd have had to take probably 10 yards back. He would have been literally a level with all our defenders, and we might as well played a 5 across there. Because what happens is, I can't remember who the actual the forward is, but his run takes Deji into the area, and Billy Key, all he does is just drops off. So the thing is, when the ball comes into Billy Key, straight away you go, that's Tom Sawers, but it isn't. Because actually what Deji should have done was Deji should have not taken the run that Ron McDonald done. Deji should have come out with Billy Key, and he didn't do that in the end. And that's the problem when you look at it. But the problem is they got through our lines very quickly because Joe Pigott didn't really do much, really. And although Accrington did swamp in with 2 or 3 players, but that's what Accrington did straight away. They were the home team. They were the one that was going to push everyone forward. But it does get into Billy Key too quickly, but I don't believe Tom Sawers is at fault. Like I say, if you look at the goal, both those 2 forwards are with Deji and Rod. One player does a run that takes 2 of them away, and Billy Key gets space. To me, that's Deji's fault.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to. This isn't a witch hunt for Tom Sawers or anything like that. I'm just trying to understand.
No.
What is he meant to be doing at that point then? Because I know, did they move the ball that quickly between us? I don't know. I just, for me,
it was 2 passes, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I swore there's enough time for. I don't know. I'd have to watch it back again properly. I'm just confused as to what.
Yeah, I watched it quite a few times because I just didn't understand how Billy Key got so much space. But it's, and Neil Hardy alluded to it. People didn't win their battles out there, and I'm almost positive he's talking about Joe Pigott because he didn't do nothing to influence it. It was very easily pushed off the ball. And when you lose your ball inside your own half and don't really do anything, the worst thing you can do there is give a foul away. But at least do something to influence the play. Don't allow you to lose the ball and then the attacking team already be in your half starting an attack. And that's where the danger starts from.
I mean, at some point during this conversation, you mentioned Neil not knowing his best starting 11. I mean, does anybody know? I was just thinking there about Joe Pigott and thinking what he's done this season. And we've said about Hempats working better off James Hansen and the Quezzy's weaknesses, which perhaps don't work well with Joe. And that just got me thinking to the wider picture, like starting 11-wise, especially as Tom. it's not the Tom Sawers witch hunt, but I'd imagine in Neil's list of players, it goes Deji 1, Trotter 2, Sawers 3. Other than that,
yeah, it worries me though if we Deji, your captain and your vice captain. The reason they're captain and vice captain is because they're players that you're going to play most of the season. They're your top players, your vocal players, your leaders, aren't they? So I would think that Deji and Trotter would be first on the list. If Sawers is as well, then I would be surprised, if I'm being truthful. Yes, we've had some. See, the argument was, and I was one of these people that said the argument, that actually our better results come in or better performances come in with Sawers playing. But at the moment, it's not about performances. It really isn't. You can go back and watch the Accrington game and you'll get people go, yeah, well, look at the second half. The second half, we had Pigott cleared off the line. We had chance after chance, and Jervis had a chance and stuff. They forget that Accrington had a chance to kill it off at 3-1 just after they scored, just after we got the 2-1 back, and could have been 3 or 4 up in the first half. It really isn't a matter of the performance at the moment. It's really about your results. It's a result business now. You've got to get a result. So at the moment, if Trotter and Sawers are not working in there, then do something different. We've got. If we're saying that we can't defend, which I think is quite clear at the moment, we can't. I think 16 goals we conceded or something along the lines of those. I know our goal difference don't look too healthy at the moment at all. But is it a case that we've got to accept maybe the best way of defence for us is actually to go and have a go at some teams, especially at home. Oxford and Bradford coming to our place in the next 7 days. You don't be doing a Plymouth. We all know the Plymouth game, if you remember properly, when we set up to to nick a draw at home if it felt like. Does Wordsworth go in there? Does Hartigan go in there? Do we just go brave and go play a three in there, play Trotter, Hartigan and Wordsworth? To me, that would work in the sense that you've got a player you bought from Southend who always gave us problems, always got goals. He can't even get in the team at the moment. He must be now thinking, why did I bother coming here? I'll be asking that question.
Yeah, I just look at the midfield. The centre midfield worries me, if I'm being honest with you, because as good as Anthony Hartigan is and what have you, when you talk about tempo and getting at teams and things like that, I just don't see we have that personnel. Even if we were to go with a 3, I'm not sure that they're those types of players that are going to do it for us. I think we still need to see a lot more from Wordsworth. Scott Wagstaff sounded like he had a good second half on Saturday, which is good because last week I said I thought we needed to see more from him, and he got his goal as well, which he did take well. Bottom line is, for me, it's just coming down to personnel. We spoke earlier about the pressure of Neil Ardley and spending money and the problems that brings. I mean, who did we actually pay the fees for? Hanson, McDonald, Thomas. If you're looking at £100,000 on those 3 players, again, early days, far too early to make judgments. I still stand by that. But as it stands at the moment, it's not looking like £100,000 well spent.
And let's not forget, we signed Pigott from Maidstone for a fee as well in the window.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So I know that comes out of a different budget, but let's not forget our strikers. We've paid fees. Two of the 4 strikers. We can't really confirm that. I will try and find out about a Jervis one. I'm always positive. I heard we did pay a little fee to Luton to get him on loan. I'll try and find out whether that's true or not. But if we just go for the argument, the 2 out of the 4 forwards we've got at the moment, we paid fees for. One we got from Palace, and the other one we got obviously a loan from Luton. What worries me a little bit is that we can't get goals. Pickett is our top goal scorer with 5 goals, I believe. Away from that, Quezzy's got 1. Hanson's got none. Sorry, Quezzy's got 2. I must have forgot the other one. Who is the other one against? I'm trying to think now.
The Polish team, Warsaw. He got the consolation.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Consolation.
Again, another consolation, which is why I forgot it.
Yeah.
And Hanson was desperately trying to get his toe on that as well. Hanson's got none. Jervis has got none. You look and think, you can see where the problems are. There's not enough goals in the team. That's that would be my biggest worry. I think if we got enough, if we could get a goal here or there, then we actually might take some pressure off the back 4 a little bit. Because at the moment they know that we're not scoring enough goals, and Deji, for how good Deji is, at the moment he's playing with a new partner in terms of Rod McDonald. I didn't go to Accrington, so I can't really comment on how Rod played there, but you got Will on the sidelines. You bring Will back in, but then you're changing personnel all the time, aren't you? And it's consistently keep changing, and you wonder where that's doing any good, because none of us noticed the first starting 11. Do the players? So does a player go? I'll give you an example. Does Scott Wagstaff go? Do you know what? Played really well the second half. I should keep. I reckon I've got a chance of starting. He might not. So does Jake Jervis comes on and does really well against Accrington. Does he keep his place? He can't guarantee it because he's not started. He's not started yet for us at all since he come. So you have to wonder whether players understand. Does a good performance keep me in the team, or are we just doing a squad rotation to keep our players fit?
I mean, the problem we've had on the podcast is the last couple of weeks is we haven't done a man of the match vote on Twitter because we just couldn't summon 3 names together. I think that's quite damning, to be honest with you. Who ended up getting the official man of the match for Scunthorpe the other week? Was it Trotter? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was. And George. We reinstated George Jones again, didn't we? So George was up there for Accrington for the podcast team, and he did try and put some man of the match contenders, but he wasn't convincing anybody, was he? Really, after Saturday, and it is like that, isn't it? Really,
he listed 3 names as like Scott Wagstaff, Lawrence Loan, and
did he really? Oh yeah, that shows how much attention I paid.
Robin Bedford, yeah.
Well, let's give it to Rocket.
Do you know what? Blooming well deserved as well, actually.
Yeah.
Although we were in black.
I know, but don't hold that against Rocket. That's not. I don't think necessarily his choice. I reckon it was probably more of a choice. We had a back of the shirt sponsor that would have been added.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think that might be more what it is. But yeah, I just think, you know what? We're not having a rant. We're just putting some constructive stuff in there. I think what I'm seeing at the moment is stuff that I don't like to see. I'm now not starting to see. Well, no, what I mean.
There's so many things on my list right now, like Watford.
But when you see I see a team now very young. I see it with a lack of leaders. I see some players not performing. If I'm being honest with you, and Neil Hardy takes all the stick when his players doesn't play well, but he's right in what he's saying. I don't necessarily want to. It's very weird, isn't it? Because you moan when Neil Hardy don't say nothing, and then when he does say stuff, you're like, should he keep that behind closed doors? But he is right, really, because there's a few players that are not really doing it for him, who should be, and whether that's he's not playing Wordsworth, for Hansen. They've been injured a couple of times. That's frustrating because at the moment Hansen comes in with a great pedigree of all the goals of Bradford, but the problem is you talk to a lot of people and they go, but he's been injured for a lot of time, and now we're starting to see him get injured for us, aren't we? So you started going now. Did we make the right choice? And the game is about choices. We were up for. Neil Hardy has said out loud that it was between him and Akindi in the summer. Well, I know he's scoring goals for League Two Lincoln at the moment. And he's playing a lot. So you're starting to go, did we make another bad choice there in hindsight?
Worries you, doesn't it? The team selection point is another one that's been brought up on social media and things like that. Is there any sort of, like you say, I'm guessing I'm just going to repeat things now, but it does seem a little bit like, where is the logic? If you make a mistake in one game, like Will Nightingale does, you're out on your backside and not back in, and then others, they get 2 or 3 chances, and when do you get your opportunity? Yes, it does. I will admit, it does seem very muddled at this moment in time.
It does, and Tom King was. Hey, look, I'm going to be kind and say is arrested against Accrington. Joe McDonald
was dropped. He was dropped. That's the word.
I know. I hate saying dropped because it means that he played really poorly.
But this, you know what? Sorry, because I've gone on a mini rant here, right? But this is the problem. This is like participation awards. This is like everyone has a prize. It's double speak and all this business. Do you know what? You're dropped. It's a lesson in life. It's a reality. You have to deal with it and move on and improve from it.
I'll tell you what, though, it's probably one that he wasn't expecting when he joined us from Millwall in the summer. Because normally when you sign on loan, and no matter what you hear and going, we're bringing a keeper into a strong bunch of 3 goalkeepers who all can compete against each other and all got a chance, you're thinking, I've come down from the Championship club here, I'm going to probably play most games. And maybe, do you know what, it's to kick up the proverbials that maybe Tom King needed. Because I don't think he stood out, but I also don't think he's been spectacularly poor. I said last week, I didn't think he's doing anything different or better than Joe McDonald can do. And then, he plays against Accrington, and I see Joe, he made some saves, but then you could say, well, Tom King might have made those as well. I don't think we've got much to choose between those two, if I'm being honest with you, and I think you could literally go, who trades the best plays, and I think I could live with that. Around the pitch, Will Nightingale, is he better? Is Ron McDonald better than Will Nightingale? Haven't seen enough to suggest he is. And you're right, Will does sometimes get a little bit of, what's the word? I think Will is a leader, isn't he? He's a leader of men. He's very, very vocal, confident. And is it because he can take it a bit better being dropped and he bounces back well? But actually, do you know what? If someone else isn't playing well, then should he come straight back in? I think there's an argument for that. I think our full back in right back area is a problem because Watson does make mistakes. He's a youngster. But then so is Toby Simic.
Easy to say.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've had a cold all week, so I do apologise. I sound a bit ropey. But again...
Sorry, ropey, did you say?
Ropey, right. Yeah. But you could toss a coin out between them two and go in, who'd you play? You could toss a coin, really you could do. So I think the midfield area for me, I think we've got, I think Tom Sawers and Liam Trott have got to step up a bit more. I think they've been a bit average in the last couple of weeks. Our forward pairing have got to show a bit more fight. Our wingers have got to show, Andy Bartram's got to show a bit more end product. For all the everyone says he's great, he gets his head down, he gets in between players, and he doesn't get, the assists he's got this year is minimal. Pinnock, same thing, he's got to start either chipping in with goals or chipping in with assists. There's a lot now that's got to come from the players, and so to a certain extent, I do agree with Neil Hardy that yes, the players have got to start taking accountability I just worry when I hear it so early on in the season.
Yeah, you know when I said that I don't think our team is very good, by the way, I think a key point of that perhaps might be because at the start of the season everyone was like, this is a massive improvement and we look so much better and what have you, and pre-season looked great and everything like that. Key point of that, Mitch Pinnock, already a contender for most overrated. Controversial?
Yeah, a bit harsh. I wouldn't say controversial. I think a bit harsh. I think he's been one of the, in terms of the signings from the new season and the signings, I would say he's probably been one of the top ones at the moment. I wouldn't say that too well because there's not been great showing from everybody. But I think Mitch Pinnock's done really well. I really do. But he's only human. You know, he's coming in from playing part-time or training part-time to full-time. We've already said that he just needs to get that engine a bit better so he can play effectively for 90 minutes. But, you know, he's still young. He needs the experienced pro to lead by example and really show why they are being possibly paid the extra money, you know, as experienced pros, and start supporting the youngsters around. But that's when it worries me we've got so many youngsters, because the youngsters now are looking up to the experienced pros, and I either see them not playing well or them being injured. So it doesn't really hold up much hope, does it?
And on that uplifting note, let's move on. That's enough of that for 1 week. Let's get going with Neil Coxless Pears.
Are we there already? Crikey.
There already?
Let's go for that.
I'm talking for like 45 minutes already.
I know. Joel, you get carried away with it all, don't you?
I think
so, yeah.
we meandered through many topics there, and I'm not sure if we followed through in any sort of logical fashion, but who cares?
We didn't.
We spoke on many topics, or many areas, but anyway. Neil Coxless Pears, this week, Stu, we're playing Bradford, I believe, next Tuesday. I lose track. So I just thought I'd do goal scorers against Bradford City from past teams, because we've played them as AFC Wimbledon, we played them as Wimbledon FC. There's lots.
Yep.
So let's start with a former Kingstonian winger who scored on his debut for us at Southport.
Well, Joe, I will say thank you to the official site Twitter, because they put a tweet up the other day about this, didn't they? It's Christian Jolly. It
is indeed Christian Jolly, who, as we've said before, is not Christian, nor is particularly happy. The second part, artist of the Mona Lisa.
Christian Jolly. I'm not. My Mona Lisa thing is not very good, you know. Not very.
That's the best. You know what? This will be the week we announce the new catchphrase of the podcast, but that might be a late runner to replace it. The Mona Lisa is not my thing. What?
Well, I'm not great on my art.
That's it. I'm not great on my Mona Lisa.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I should know this, but I don't.
Jolly.
Leonardo. Yeah, I don't know what the name is. It's some Italian bloke, isn't it?
Some Italian bloke. Yeah, let's just stop it there. Christian Jolly, some Italian bloke.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I do, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
You do know it. It's Christian Leonardo da Vinci.
See, I was getting confused with Leonardo. He's the person who's played in Titanic. I was getting confused with that one.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, see, Leonardo, wow. I thought I knew, but I couldn't remember the last bit. Yeah, not a bad painting. Not my cup of tea, but I'll take the money for it.
A very good actor as well there, Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't think he gets enough credit, actually. I think he's looked down on a little bit. He's very, very good. No, he's very, very good. Right. Academy graduate striker who would later join Newcastle United.
Carl Court.
Carl Court. And the actress who played Monica in Friends.
Oh, I don't really watch... I do watch Friends, but I don't really know what their names are.
She was in the Scream movies as well.
Yeah.
She married another famous actor.
Is Monica the blonde? No, who's a blonde? It's a blonde one, isn't it?
No, she's the brunette one.
Oh.
Looks like a young Ingrid Bergman.
No, I don't know.
No, she married sadly, a former WCW world champion. Ridiculously. Carl Courtney Cox Arquette. Is she still?
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think she's still Courtney Cox Arquette. I just went for Courtney Cox Arquette because it sounded funnier.
Courtney Cox.
Yeah, just go for Courtney
Friends,
Cox.
I didn't watch Friends quite a lot, if I'm being truthful, but then all you hear is referred to by their stage name, don't they? Or their
character names.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so third one, Crawley Loney scored in the important last day victory over Fleetwood Town in 2013.
Crawley Loney.
Striker. Millwall.
Oh.
You were like in love with him.
Oh, it's oh crikey, I forgot his name now.
This might be the first time you've not got the player. Oh, the pressure.
I know, and I can see him now, and I can't think because he's now managing at. Oh, he's now managing at. He's now managing at non-league level. I can't think his name is now. This could really bug me. Oh, is it really worrying when you can see his face, but you can't put a name on it?
Yes, that is very frustrating.
This is great for podcast silence, isn't it?
Do you want? Can I give you any more clues? His first name, perhaps, starts with a G.
Yeah, it's Graham something, isn't it?
No,
I can't remember.
It's not Graham.
Is it not?
It's not Graham. No, you're getting yourself muddled with a Graham that has the same surname.
I can't remember. I have been ill this week, so I can sort of like
give over. Gary, maybe.
Gary Alexander.
There we go.
It's very bad. You've had to give me a hint on a Wimbledon player.
It really is.
I've been ill though, so I can now vouch for that. See, because I've been poor.
Of course. The second half of this, by the way, Stu. The second half. If someone was to ask me this question, I wouldn't get it. I don't think.
Cool.
So we've got no chance. I don't think. Based if you can get Gary Alexander, this might be Caribbean island. Capital is Santo Domingo.
I'm trying to think of a Caribbean island that would go with Alexander. No, I don't know.
No, I'd have struggled massively with this one. Gary Alexander, Dominican Republic.
Of course.
Last one for the wrestling fans that love the Graps. Another Millwall loanee. He was a Comoros international.
Oh, that would be. Oh, I can't remember his name. My mind has gone blank today.
This is not a good week.
No, Jimmy Abdou.
Yeah, here we go. Jimmy Abdou. And this is the finishing manoeuvre of the Legion of Doom. Hawk and Animal.
I don't know, but I know you're going to tell me.
Yeah, absolutely. It is Jim Abdoomsday Device.
What a move. Jim
Abdoomsday Device. It was what a manoeuvre, as Vince McMahon would say. That's that for this week. You mentioned you referenced. We've got so many things to reference this week, Stu. You referenced earlier The Circle. What great television this is. Who is
great?
So basically, for people that don't know, this is like Big Brother, basically a new Big Brother on Channel 4, which is on pretty much every day. But instead, they're not in a house together. They're in like a block of flats, and they can only communicate via. Essentially, it's WhatsApp, isn't it? Basically, with a few extra little bits and pieces. Great, compulsive, addictive viewing. Who is your favourite so far?
See, I'm liking Dan at the moment.
Dan, yeah, I do like Dan. I agree with you.
Just because he's a bit. If you look at the ages, there's only. Obviously, I'm up to episode 4. I probably would have caught up by the time this podcast is being sent out. But he's 28. He's a bit more switched on. So the others are all being led by their what they can see. So they're being very fickle, aren't they, about looks and stuff like that, which is what happens on these sort of things.
Who would judge anyone on their appearances whatsoever? That is ridiculous. Aidan is my favourite.
Of course. You know what I mean? But yeah, like him, I do like the girl that's come in. This will make you laugh because I can't understand the logic, right? The girl that's come in as Christopher, who's a 65-year-old person, because they thought that they would feel sorry for a 65-year-old, and I was thinking, oh my days, that I would never seen that. So it's just great, you know. It's like Catfish in a way, isn't it? You know, I can be whoever I want to be and get away from realising that I'm not that somebody that would be famous. And yeah, it's quite fun. Like I say, it's basically just people building cliques with people, isn't it? And lying through their teeth, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's Channel 4 at 10 p.m. pretty much every evening. The Bodyguard finished this weekend as well, Stu. Everyone was watching this. I swear to God, every single person in the whole wide world was watching this show. Everyone seemed to know about it. Yeah, I just applaud them. That was very, very good. Very entertaining.
Yeah, it was good for BBC One, to be fair. It's nice to know where our money's going towards, isn't it, year on year? I don't mind if they produce better stuff like that. But yeah, I was so convinced that she wasn't dead as well.
What have you
spoiler alert.
Oh, dear.
I didn't say who wasn't dead, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, I can't imagine who you were talking about. Anyway, yeah, and nice twist. Yeah, so it's very good. That was TV this week. And also films. Now, last week, this all ties in, you see, because we have our 90s theme and the music at the start of the show. But this week, there were no takers for guessing the song that we started last week's show with, which I shall reveal now was My Bloody Valentine, with Sometimes, from the film Lost in Translation, which is my movie recommendation of the week. Oh my word, what a film that is. That might be, it's the best film ever. I'm putting it out there, best film ever. And then after that, guess what else I watched this week? So, Mulholland Drive.
Very good.
Best film ever. Just amazing. What a great film that is. So check that one out as well if you've not done that. Yeah, if you've never seen Mulholland Drive.
No, I may have to watch it.
If you've got a spare couple of hours, like, amazing, from the guy who did Twin Peaks. It's just so good. Anyway, so yeah, music quiz. If you spotted or know what the song was at the start of this week's show, then please tweet us in at 9YRS Podcast with your guess. Because we also have to go through transfer quiz. So Mark Hendricks put this video together, basically identify 5 Wimbledon players through their transfer movements. And we got a number of responses on Facebook. So thank you very much. I'm going to bring those up now. But actually, the first response we got, and therefore the winner of this particular quiz, was on Twitter. And I am just about to get their Twitter handle up now so I don't mess it up. 5 players. I think you managed to work them out, didn't you, Stu, quite happily?
I did, yes. I did. They're good, though. Got you thinking for a bit.
Got you thinking for a little bit of time. But it was indeed Isa Dabrowska at Dabrowska LSA _13 on Twitter, who correctly identified Callum Kennedy. Oh, no, hold on. Is that right? I'm even questioning that now. Did we put Scott Wagstaff in? Yes, we did. I was just trying to remember the quiz, and I was thinking, I don't remember Scott. Yes, Scott Wagstaff, sorry. Callum Kennedy, Scott Wagstaff, James Hansen, Danny Bullman, and finally Adebayo Aziz. So well done, Isa. First person to get those correct. And Mark will do another one at some point in the future. But also congratulations to our Facebook respondents, Dean Parsons. Any ideas?
No, he claims that he knows quite a bit about football, but I can't believe he done anything. Did he get anywhere near with this one?
I've just said he got him all right, but never mind.
Did he really?
Thanks
He
for
must
paying
have guessed.
Ben Hibbert and Steve Leahy. So very well done, all of you. Thank you for taking part.
Well done, Steve. Steve's a good lad. I'm not surprised he got them all right.
We're going to finish up with a look ahead to the Oxford game. Don't want to do it because of their manager. Don't like their manager. Not a fan of their manager. Really don't want to talk about him, so we won't. But I will enjoy the fact that they're rubbish at the moment. Oxford 23rd in the table. They are 4 games without a win. They haven't won away all season. Now this is a problem for us, isn't it, Stu? Because Scunthorpe hadn't won since the opening day. They beat us. Accrington hadn't won at home all season. They beat us. Oxford haven't won away all season. However, the flip side is that we haven't won at home yet, so we are due.
Well, this is exactly what I was thinking. And I remember chatting. I think Mark said he wanted 7 points or 9 points out of these next 3 games. I was laughing to myself because I was thinking we've done nothing to suggest that we can get maximum points from Oxford at home and Bradford at home. So yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, I think the beauty of it is that Oxford play Man City in the League Cup on Tuesday night. So they're no doubt going to put their first team out, because if they don't, they're going to get absolutely slaughtered. So it's another game for them, isn't it? So let's just hope they come down to our place a little bit tired. Hopefully Man City slaughter them and give them a little bit of a lack of confidence, and then we go and pick up the points at home on Saturday. But I'm not... Hey, look, Oxford... If you said Oxford a couple of years ago, you'd gone... we haven't beaten them, we haven't done this, but we've done the double over them last year. So we should be confident, but... I think it's going to be...
2 seasons ago, sorry. Just sorry to be pedantic.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot. Last season felt like I don't really remember last year. I just think it's a game. I think it's going to be 1 goal in it. I don't think it's going to be a classic. And I wouldn't be confident that we're going to end up winning it, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not overly confident.
It's got draw written all over it. Draw
Possibly,
written all over it. We shall see. See how many times Ricky Holmes throws himself to the floor as well. Be nice to welcome him back. And Jamie Mackey.
Yeah.
Jamie Mackey always gets a nice warm welcome, doesn't he?
Well, yes. I don't know, the manager's going to get the warmest of welcomes of all, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? He'll love all that because it's never his fault. on anything, it's always someone else's fault. I know he's now moaning about the uncertainty behind the Kazams wanting double their rent now, isn't it? And moaning that they can't train on the pitch and all that sort of stuff. So he loves a good excuse, doesn't he? He loves to play the victim. You're not.
Always the victim, never his fault. Any other games in League One do you spot? There's only one. Luton Charlton is the biggest game of the weekend by far.
I can honestly say I haven't looked. I'll be totally truthful. I'm going to have a look now. Coventry Sunderland is the live game. That's interesting.
Something's weird about the weekend. I don't think something's odd about the live games this weekend. I haven't been able to figure it out, but yeah, it's all over the shop.
Yeah, a few decent ones. If I'm looking, I would say one that probably does interest me is Bradford versus Bristol. Just because Bradford are poor, Bristol had a first home win. It was, I think, the first home in the season. I believe they beat Coventry, wasn't it? So, be interesting whether Bristol will put 2 performances together. Bradford at the moment, yeah. Again, I hope they get beat again, just because I want to come down to our place as fragile as possible. So, but yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because you look at, obviously, Jake Reeves is still there, and you don't wish anything bad on Jake Reeves, but I hope he has a stinker and doesn't enjoy his return to South West London.
Would you have Jake Reeves back?
Without a doubt.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Yes, no, I'd agree. Thank you very much, Stu.
No
That's
problem.
pretty much us done. We're going to have to plug, of course, we talked about music at the start of the show. Music at the end of the show every week is from our big loyal supporters, These Fine Gentlemen. Thank you very much to those guys. Continued support for the podcast. Check their website out. They've got a new album due any moment. So www. Is that a thing anymore? Do I have to put the www anymore? I don't think you do you?
No, I think people know it's the World Wide Web, don't they?
Yeah, but people don't. You don't have to type it in for anything now, do you? So don't know.
No, you don't.
No. So thesefinegentlemen.com. Check them out, please. And that is it. Updates from both games in the week. Oxford and Bradford will be on Twitter at 9YRS Podcast, Instagram at the same place, facebook.com/9YRS Podcast for live broadcasts on match days. AFC Wimbledon Business Club this week. They are off, Stu, to have a spa day at the Simply Swank Resort with former Newcastle United winger Brian Penis. We'll be back next Thursday with a look at that Oxford and Bradford games, like I said. Somebody is on Love Sport Radio at 8 p.m. this Sunday. Don't know who. After we've finished recording this, Stu, I should probably figure that one out. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last. We'll speak to you again next week.
Sweeter time. Lord, you got your high school sweetheart. They're breaking all the rules. They're fogging up their